Hi guys, how you doing? So today we're going to take a look at a micro ATX case from Corsair. It's the 280X. It's one which I've had my eye on for a little while. I'm actually going to do a 10700K build with the 3090 Founders Edition. Yes, the 3090. I've been able to squeeze it in there, and you'll see that during the building process. So the video today is going to consist of a few minutes of me talking about the case prior to doing the build. Then we have a little montage video of me doing said build, and then you're going to come back and we're going to talk about what I like, what I don't like, and I'm also going to rate it in 6 different categories, and I'll obviously give you an idea of whether it's the right case for you. So without further ado, let's go take a look. Guys, so this is the Corsair 280X, micro ATX. You can obviously get DTX, ITX in there, not a problem. I don't think it's going to look too much out of place, especially if you fill it up with a custom loop or whatever. Lots of fans in there. Today we're going to look at all the different sides. We're going to take the panels off and we're going to have a closer look. So let's go. So the side panel is kept on with these screws, if you can see those there. They're metal. I don't really like them because what we'll see is when we take them all off, the panel just wants to drop. There's nothing supporting it under here. And that's not ideal really, is it? Because you can see, I don't know if you can see there, it's beginning to drop already and it comes away. Now obviously once you've got the panel on there, you're not really going to have too many problems, but it's just literally a sheet of glass. I mean, other manufacturers have definitely got like a little hinge here. It's what I'd prefer, to be honest, but you know, we're working with what Corsair have done, and overall it's not really a bad job, to be honest. So inside we've got 3 grommets there. I believe this is mostly for your mini ITX, so you obviously can pass things through. Otherwise, if you're going to use the micro ATX, what we're going to do today, I think most things will go through there. Plenty of space for everything. You can put 120 or 140 in the front, in the top as well, and in the rear there's room for it. We've got 4 slots at the back here for our graphics card. I'm actually going to be putting a RTX 3090 in here. It does fit just, so we'll see later on with the build. Usual cutouts in places here, but yeah, it's a really nice size. So what we'll do is now have a look at the back. So if we take a look at the rear, you'll see that there's no 120 or 140 fan here. Now obviously that's because of the design of it. It's very square, it's very blocky, and we've got the room for the hard drives and the power supply here. I have seen footage of people that put small fans in here, a couple of little fans. I think they're going to be a bit noisy. You know, if you want to put it in there, then you can do, but I don't think it's going to be necessary really. Obviously got the black PCIe slots there, got the screws there, that will take off and then you can get access to those. Here's where we put our power supply, and up here is where we put our hard drives. So we've got a couple of caddies in here, and it's just the usual kind of thing that you get from them. And then we've got our accessories box, so all of our screws and that in there. Oops, daisy. So overall, I like the back. I like the fact that the PSU is separated from everything. It's in a separate chamber, as with the hard drives. So that's really nice. At the rear, it's a bit plain Jane, to be honest. We've got the air filter here, and obviously the PSU will breathe there. And over here, you can stick a fan in if you really want to. But I don't think in this case we will, unless it proves that it's required later on. Couple of screws here. They are captive, which is really good. Sometimes they're not, and you lose them, so well done. Here we've got 3 caddies for our 2.5-inch drives, be they hard drives or SSDs. So in total you've got room for 2 large 3.5, and then you've got room for 3 2.1s. Obviously that's where your power supply sits. All your cables are going to come through, and you can organise them down here. If you're going to water cool your system, I'm sure you can have your reservoir and that in here. So loads of room to do stuff with. It's really nice. So at the front we've got this glass panel here. It's nice. I'm going to swap out the fans in here so it will look a little bit different. Get some RGB in there eventually. On the top of it's more of the same. Got a nice glass panel. We've We've got two USB Type 3s, we've got your mic, you've got headphone, power and reset. There you go, you can see that. And underneath we have a dust filter, so if you're going to have some fans down the bottom, that would certainly help with filtering out that dust. Guys, so that's the quick look at the case. I think it looks really nice. I've got no issues over the quality. I love the separate compartments for the hard drives, the power supply, and even like the boxiness of it really. I think the building process should be fairly straightforward. You've got lots of room for cable management. So let's have a quick montage video of me putting everything together, and then we'll come back in a few minutes and discuss my findings. Guys, so the actual building process was quite straightforward. It was a little bit kind of fiddly at times with some of the wires, but I got there in the end. And one thing to note actually, on the radiator that I used, the screw was kind of as a rounded one, and it does actually interfere with the 8-pin CPU cable. So if you get a flat screw in that position, it won't be a problem. It's just that it pushes down on the little clip. And it's just, yeah, it's not ideal to be honest. So it's a little bit of kind of a design flaw, I'd say. But yeah, overall, really nice. I'm super happy with the way it's turned out. I have changed it slightly as well since I did the build, because that was a couple of days ago I've been using it. And I've put Arctic fans in the bottom and the front. The fans that came with it were just 3-pin DC, and I kind of didn't want that. I wanted a little bit more control. So I've changed those, and I'm really happy. So there's 6 categories we're going to look at, and we're going to tackle those one at a time. So the first thing is value. Now, this case retails for about £100 if you buy the non-RGB version, 150-ish if you buy the RGB. Now, it depends on your point of view whether you think the fans are worth it or not. Personally, I'm not that into RGB, and obviously I know the AIO is, but I think that's more than enough for me. So at £100, I think excellent value, and I think I'd give that 5 stars. At 150, probably 4 stars. I actually paid £70 for this case. That was brand new, so I'd kind of give it 6 stars, but that's kind of beyond like the scoring system. So yeah, value, brilliant. So it's a 5 stars. So the build quality of this case is fantastic. I really like it. I've got no problems with it at all. The materials are plastic, metal, and tempered glass. They complement one another. It's just really nice. That's all I can say really. So I give it 4 stars because it's nice, but it's not perfect. So if we look at the design of the case, it's beautiful. You know, the tempered glass looks lovely. It's a little bit impractical in some cases because I think it hampers airflow a little bit. There is a gap for air to get in there, but it's not an airflow case. And at the rear, obviously, the lack of fan whilst it's not a deal breaker because obviously you can get fans underneath, it's just something that's not ideal. I love the compartments in the back, you know, the separate chambers for the power supply, for the SSDs, for the hard drive. I think it's really nice, but maybe if they could nix a little bit of space from there, that might have kind of made it a little bit better. But yeah, otherwise I've got no complaints about the design. Obviously you can go for the bigger cases. I think it's a 680X or something like that if you want a full-size version of this. But yeah, there's some sacrifices you have to make being a micro ATX case. But yeah, so design-wise, I'll give it 3.5 stars. So if we take a look at cable management, the case lets you down a little bit, to be honest. So it's got the 3 grommets at the front. Now, 2 of those are for DTX and ITX motherboards, to be honest, because when you've got a micro ATX board in there, they're covered up, and you've only got the one down the bottom. Now, there isn't one above that because that's where the SSD compartment is, and that's fine. So obviously you get the cables down there. It doesn't look the best, if I'm honest, but it's okay. Up the top, you have a little bit of an issue trying to pass cables through. It's a little bit fiddly, but it's all right. It's not fantastic. And when I got the AIO, obviously, with the extra cables for the RGB fans, bit of a pain. I did actually plan to put some RGB fans in this, but I'm glad I didn't because it would have been an absolute car crash in terms of cables. It's probably a good thing that I haven't. And then also one thing to note is it does accept 140mm fans down the bottom, but with the cable, especially the HD audio and the like, they get in the way. Now you can obviously push up against it, but then you kind of flex in the motherboard a little bit, and I'm not comfortable with that, to be honest. The alternative is to not use the HD audio cable, or maybe a couple of other cables if you really are dead set on putting 140mm fans. I went with 120 and they're fine. There's no clearance issues. One thing to note is if you put fans down the bottom of your case, then access to the PCI slot is going to be hampered, so you might have to kind of consider whether you want to put fans in the bottom just because of that, really. So overall, with cable management, I think I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. So it's not bad, but it's not brilliant either. So CPU cooling in this case is pretty decent, to be fair. You are limited if you want to air cool to 150 mils. So yeah, it's not brilliant. I know you won't be able to get your big behemoth coolers in there, but there are options for you. If you use an AIO, then it's even better because you can go up to 280. I've got a 240 at the moment. I'm very happy. But yeah, to know that I can go up to 280 is really good. Now, I'm only going to give it 3.5 stars because it doesn't fit a 360. You know, if it did, then I'd probably give it 4.5 stars. But for that reason, 3.5 stars, that's not bad, is it? So the final category is GPU clearance. In there, we've got the 3090 Founders. I measured that at being 315mm. You've got 10mm between that and the fan, and obviously the fan being about 25mm. So if you really wanted to squeeze a 35cm card in there, you could do. But otherwise, yeah, you're not going to have a problem with GPU clearance at all. Plus, obviously, you've got the 4 PCI slots, so that's a triple card. I've got the fans down the bottom, got a bit of a gap as well. Yeah, not a problem. So I'm going to give that 5 stars because I think it's absolutely fantastic. Guys, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's kind of giving you an idea whether the case is right for you or not. If you're thinking about it, don't hesitate, go out, get it. I definitely recommend it. It's really, really nice. Also, I recommend liking, subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.